What I did, like a lot of people, I used to daydream of quitting my job, but I actually did it. I quit my job to have a summer off by living in my car, but it ended up being an entire year. This was before van life was a thing. This is a little background on my journey, what led me here, and eventually, me and my friend wanted to start the Boundless Society project, where we can help others take a respite from the grind. The backstory. Like all major life changes, it starts with small steps. After high school, I decided to take a break from school, only taking a college course here and there while working full time. I didn't keep in touch with people in high school, so my focus at 20 became getting out and making friends. And I had some vague idea of going back to school to get my degree, and I was saving up for it. And I didn't want to take out student loans and go into debt. Things really began to change though when me and my coworkers started to work out together. I'd say my journey of self-discovery began with exercise. I started to step outside my comfort zone and made some friends, started taking yoga classes. I joined an MMA gym, and I even did a Zumba class. Being the only guy there, the instructor pointed at me and said, "Hey, look, he can move his hips." Before, I probably would have been uncomfortable and embarrassed by this, but I just thought it was hilarious and mystified at how easily the instructor seemed to float while moving. I was thinking if I was ever going to take fighting seriously, I would definitely be doing more Zumba. Over this year, I eventually took exercise from an activity I suffered at, stuck with long enough to make it a habit, then after sticking with it long enough, a lifestyle. Something that I might fall out of every once in a while over time, but I will always come back to it as it's part of me and who I am. Exercise has helped me get through some pretty difficult times in life over the years. And soon with all this change, I was trying to fit in as much self-improvement as possible. Up until this point, I haven't read a book since high school, and the first book I read was Albert Einstein's Theory of Relativity. I remember sitting at the lunch table at work reading it. I was making great progress personally, but professionally, it felt like I was running in place and believed school would help. So I was 21 now, and college is how adults are supposed to progress after all. I started to take 2 classes, one before work and one after work. I was sleeping 5 hours a night if I was lucky, and driving 30 to 40 minutes home after class just to study and sleep. I realized 1 or 2 classes a quarter would have taken years just to get my associate's degree. Years without sleep. I was going to school to major math and physics, which I love, but now my passions were toward personal training and helping others in their fitness journey. Now this is where my mindset shifted. Even though I was doing everything right like we're told, that feeling of running in place grew stronger. I did not have enough time or energy to pursue my passions in life or explore others, much less the energy to focus on school. Balance with all this is impossible. Since the time of the story, I've seen so many people start and stop attending school, only to feel like failures. I could barely afford food. I never ate at school, further limiting my ability to study and socialize with classmates. If I didn't have a test in math, I would work out in the morning, then it was to school to do some studying before class. School, work, and school. The more I thought about it, the more I knew this wasn't the path for me. I always knew working for others was not the path to retirement, not for my generation, so I had to figure something else out. With personal training, I could envision the outcome. Unlike math and physics, even today, you have no idea what you can do with a degree like that. Engineering or banking, but building what with your engineering skills? Or what job, would you be doing in the finance world? With personal training, the plan is clear. You get certified, you market yourself and get clients, you rent a space or work at a gym, maybe you open a gym of your own one day, all while reaping the rewards of helping others to make positive changes in their lives. And it's measurable changes, and changes you and them can feel. So now I was 22 years old and had been working since I was 15. And over most of those years, I had very little time or energy for myself. Working 8-hour days, I would not have the energy to do anything other than watch TV or shows. And I watched countless hours of TV. This job I was working during these 2 years of self-improvement was the true definition of dead end. It had zero upward mobility. The last raise I got was 35 cents out of 50 cents because we were measured on a set of key points, and the raise was a percentage of how many of those points we exceeded expectations on. I was not only doing my job, I was exceeding the expectations. And not to mention, the first time I called out sick after working for a year with this company, my supervisor literally said, "Well, you don't sound sick, like we're children." This job was great at first though, because we were all young and liked to go out and play pool and shoot darts after work, but eventually going from one building to another got old to me. We started to drift apart because I wanted more out of life and began to strive for it. I was lucky that we had hour-long lunches, but the downside was that for the rest of the 8 hours, I had to repetitively pack items into boxes to be shipped out. So I was losing 9 hours of my day just being at this place. And we had giant windows I can look out of. I'd see people enjoying the trail that was by the building, and I'd be jealous of the cars and the people who were in them that were driving down the road that I could see across this field. Jealous because they were not being forced to be in the building all day, which only further accelerated my mindset shift. Now on to van life. I call it the light that's at the end of the tunnel of the 9 to 5 grind. I simply wanted to have a break from the grind, to have a summer off like we used to get, when we'd be going to school 9 or 10 months out of the year. And during this time, I just wanted to get certified as a personal trainer. 7 years without more than a week or two off here and there really fucking sucks. And of course, as a math major, all these calculations were clear. Most of my paycheck was now going to a place where I would spend 6 to 7 hours, or less when I was going to school, cooking briefly before spending the remainder unconscious. So what I did was I was living with my brother, and our lease was just about to end. I talked to my brother and figured, what the hell? He was able to line up an amazing place at a friend's house for himself. I considered getting a van, but that would only mean continuing to work at this job I hated more and more every day. And I was beyond burnt out and jaded at this point. I moved all my stuff into storage and started sleeping in my car. Over the first few months, I would go to my storage unit, pick things up and drop it off, things I didn't need. And then eventually, whatever I didn't want, my brother would take, or I sold or got rid of that storage unit. I did not tell anyone else. This is not something anyone would understand back then. And was I nervous? Hell yes. But as someone once said, you have to determine which of the two options is more painful. So for example, for exercise, it was being overweight, not comfortable in my own skin, lacking energy and confidence. Or was it more painful to exercise and show up to the gym every day and consistently? So was it now more painful to pay rent, most of my paycheck to rent, and barely have food to eat? Or would it be more painful to quote unquote be homeless, sleeping in my car, and having free time? And with that money that I had saved, I could actually feed myself. Being homeless, though, was another beast with a whole lot of hows and what ifs. And again, this was before anyone publicly announced that they were choosing to be homeless and live in a vehicle. It was a crazy idea. As soon as I moved to sleeping in my car, life instantly began to get better. I was still working, but I would park in a neighborhood near college, like 2 minutes away. I'd get up now and take a short drive, like 5 or 10 minutes to the gym. And after class in the evening, instead of driving that 45 minutes home, I just drove the 5 minutes, parked, and I actually got some decent sleep. So that's 90 minutes of a commute eliminated. I had more time and more brain capacity to study. Once the school quarter ended, I was planning to continue working until I saved $5,000, but I was out once I got a little over $3,000. Now for the pros and cons. It's almost impossible to put in words the experience. So I'll start with the cons. I slept in a Mitsubishi Mirage. It looks big from the outside, but there's no legroom inside, and the back seat doesn't lay down, so there's no access to the trunk space to stretch out for sleeping. A second con, you probably won't have much of a dating life. People will consider you homeless, but to me, and it still is, just a place to sleep. People will always judge you, no matter what, and this topic probably requires its own video. But from my experience, we're always something to somebody. We're always too fat, too short. I even got too fit once. So what I'd say is, just try to do your best and strive to be the best version of yourself, and you'll make huge strides in life. Now for the pros. No rent. I was spending most of my paycheck on rent and utilities. I had to desperately penny pinch just to afford to take those college courses. The best thing from doing this is you learn to live within your means. Not only that, you learn that you can survive and thrive with very little. Other than paying rent for a place to sleep, it's also a place to store all your crap. Crap you don't need or use, and you even forget you have. This forces you to quit buying frivolous things. I love only needing the essentials. I keep quantity of stuff I have to a minimum. This makes life more manageable and gives you more options when needing to move. I could temporarily rent a room and not need to waste money and time on storage and moving. My appreciation has also grown for having a place to store my belongings and have a place to sleep. A place that's warm, private, and safe. When you downsize, you quit wasting water and electricity. When you have to go out and buy water to refill jugs, you really appreciate how precious water is and you want to conserve it. All of this makes your carbon footprint go way down without even trying. And stress levels. Oh, the stress relief. Stress goes down, anger goes down. You're not road raging when you're stuck in traffic, when you're not, doing a 9 to 5 grind. The largest takeaway was the realization of what freedom truly is. Real freedom. Before, I thought retirement was junk food, video games, and movies. and maybe going to, play in a soccer league or indulging on some hobby or two. But I was reading, I was listening to podcasts, I was going to the gym, riding my bike, skateboarding. I started learning French, riding a half hour out on my bicycle, riding in a half hour back on this trail, listening to French on tape. I learned more French in 8 hours than I did in 3 years in high school. I even, in this year, took a couple college classes. I don't know how I could afford all this and actually had time to study and process the material. When you don't have to worry about money, all your stress disappears. You have the energy to do things, not because you have to, but because you want to. Right now, I more or less have to be recording this right now because I work full time. If I didn't do it, I won't be getting up at 4 a.m. to record this. When we work, we have to force ourselves to do the things that we're passionate about. It's disgusting. And money. When I was doing van life, I decided to give up on, the apartment life again and get a van this time. I was working part-time at a coffee shop while learning to code, building websites, and was even able to pay off credit card debt. Working part-time at a coffee shop. The tips alone were paying for my food. Today, if I lost my job, I would be screwed. Most of us live paycheck to paycheck. Without worrying about bills, you can take risks. You can afford to spend money to develop yourself and your skills. You can focus on your hobbies. You don't have to turn them into income-generating businesses. You can turn down low-paying jobs, work that isn't the right fit, and quit horrible bosses that would mistreat or disrespect you, your effort, or your time. It's a mind-blowing concept to employers, but not everyone loves money and wants to work overtime. The happiest I've been working is when I would just come in, get the job done, and go home without any work drama or forced overtime or any other nonsense. And the less I work, the happier I am. If I'm able to work 5 hours a day, I would work 5 hours every day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, just to have that free time to work on hobbies and things that I'm passionate about. But this is not the end of our story. We are building a community. We want to help others find paths and meanings in their life. Only when we come together can we begin to make a real change. Isolation is the death of ideas, change, vision, success, death of the soul, and often the cause of actual death of individuals. We are going to build an online community first, a place for people to come together to share ideas, resources, and knowledge and support one another. I could not have done the van life without knowing people who had the tools. What takes years to accomplish alone could be accomplished in weeks or months with the help of others. My friends and I love working. We love to work hard on things that matter. We put blood, sweat, and tears into projects we are passionate about. But no human was born to labor their lives away. This world, especially the US, is currently impossible to make it alone. And it's getting worse. The system is broken. We want our time back. We want community back where we can share tools, time, and have time to play and relax. So we're going to build a community to lift one another up. You don't have to be alone. You don't have to struggle alone. Surround yourself with quality people who want the best for you and you for them, and build your own tribe, or feel free to join ours.